Here we go. Welcome to another Komodo community podcast. Joined here with BT and Borko. Thanks for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Excellent. Well, I heard about some of the work that you're doing, and we want to talk about that. We have a few topics to go over. The first topic that we're going to talk about is Cryptoken. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so really, to be quite brief, we started a cryptocurrency data business about a year ago in Toronto, Ontario. I've since then moved to Europe due to this COVID situation and to be with my family. But essentially, we have built a data engine whereby we take in cryptocurrency prices from some of the leading cryptocurrency prices providers like CryptoCompare. And then we have built our own statistical process whereabouts we do various computations such as like rates of returns, standard deviations, and then we also do some community data web scraping. But this data engine is really just meant to provide as many people with quality financial statistics on cryptocurrencies. So I think that's something that's currently lacking in the space. A lot of people just focus on the price, but I think what we are trying to do here is maybe provide a little bit more flavor and try to depict what return distributions may look like. I do come from finance, so just briefly, a couple things about myself. I finished economics. I did my postgraduate degree in business. And then I finished my CFA. So I did level 1, 2, and 3. So really, I think what the industry may be lacking at this point is just to understand a bit more about why cryptocurrency prices move so much. And our goal is to provide a daily file that's processed by a computer script. So like that file that you just showed is done, I call it robo-advisor spreadsheet, but it's done every day at 2 in the morning UTC time, London time, and we just have it, which is kind of exciting because we provide prices for both. We provide prices in both BTC and US dollars. That's something that I wanted to highlight.
Yeah, do you want to say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so essentially, if you look at the first two tabs, we are looking at the open, high, low, and closed for all of the cryptocurrencies in its native Satoshi denomination. And then we're also then converting all of the prices for that specific day into US dollars. And from there, we're able to do rates of returns across the entire maturity curve. That's what I call it, a maturity curve, but it would be, yes, like the wall of data. You just aptly described, but that's a wall of data. But on the left-hand side, really, it's quite simple because they're just cryptocurrency tickers. So you can search by like KMD or LTC or XLM, and then you can see for each specific date what a period return was for that cryptocurrency, which I think is extremely useful. I've been using it quite a bit myself. You can even use this for trading. I don't recommend it. We are more into an education and advocacy business. These are not algorithms. These are not trading bots, but like common sense dictates if something is bid up, if the price is bid up, then you can possibly sell it or collect some of the capital gains into like a Tether, USDC, or any of the stable coins, right? And then when it falls, mean reverts, which everything does, then you can go back into your favorite cryptocurrency. But at least with this spreadsheet, man, we have a way now to measure on a daily basis performance of all of the cryptocurrencies in both denominations.
Did you want to mention that? So you mentioned the US denomination, and then you also have a BTC denomination.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So that's exactly the value add, and I think that gets lost sometime. You look at prices of cryptocurrencies in US dollars, but that's not entirely accurate.
I think a
Prices.
lot of us, I think a
Mhm.
lot of us understand that, but would you like to expand on that a bit?
Well, so really, actually, like if you look at Ethereum, Ethereum is not priced in US dollars. It's just, it isn't. So like yesterday, the closing end reference rate was like $409, but that's not accurate. Really, the reference rate was like 3.15 million Satoshis. Then you have to convert that into the BTC price.
Right. So people who have been around for some time, they might recognize that, they might understand that already, but other people who are, especially who are new, might not recognize the difference, or they might not have thought about that yet.
Yeah, yeah, and like my goal is really, what's really cool about our project is, one, it's fully scalable, so we can really get this information out to as many people as possible, right? And I call this distributed financial analysis, a DFA. Many of the people from my type of background, they just didn't really jump into cryptocurrencies. They stayed in the legacy finance space. I don't know why. I personally find crypto extremely compelling for obvious reasons: ideological, technological. Some of the greatest minds that we have today are in the space. Then we have a lot of people that are doing like public relations work, doing media work. Like, man, this is extremely useful. If we were at like Fidelity Investments, we would never really get to talk.
Excellent. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to tell us about Cryptoken? You are developing anything, an app or something like that you were mentioning?
Yeah, so that's a good transition. That what I thought about maybe like 2 months ago was, we can then possibly use our data engine and parlay this into a Web3 app. So we hired a blockchain team from Russia, Tomsk, Siberia. It's pretty cool out there, but they're extremely knowledgeable. It's a great team of blockchain people, very pragmatic. So we are currently trying to build a desktop app that's going to take our data engine and then present it to users in a crypto-friendly way, like the UI that you are used to, like the Blockfolio of the world.
Okay.
So we are essentially now building a Blockfolio. Okay, the only difference is our slant or our competitive edge would be that we're providing the financial statistics that we talked about, which I personally really enjoy, because you can always use Bitcoin kind of like as a benchmark. And then if I hold Komodo, and if I want to see what Komodo has done over the past 30 days or 60 days, you need to look at it versus the benchmark. So those are the things that we're going to build right into our UI, so you can quickly, briefly look over all of your cryptocurrencies and see how they have performed relative versus Bitcoin.
That would be something like this data over here. You could see how it's returned against Bitcoin in 1 day, 2 days, 7 days.
Yeah.
You've got up
And
to 30 days,
I mean,
60
we can
days.
do like, yeah, like do me a favor. Let's search for ETC briefly for the Ethereum Classic, because you know they had a 51% hack.
Yeah.
Attack.
Okay. So it's here on online on row 57.
That's it. And then if you do me a favor, we can look at the ROC for like 30 days.
So 30 days, I think, is ROC third. So N, column N. Is that
okay, there we go.
And then I'm sure there's a better way than this, but there we go. So it's like minus 11.
There we go. So
minus.
Is it 0.11? So yeah, there we
That's
go.
correct.
I mean, yeah, and then we can right away we can tell that ETC has underperformed BTC 11% as of yesterday, right? Without having to visit 5 different websites, you know, because it's getting pretty confusing. You have CoinMarketCap, CoinMarketBook, CoinMetrics. Now there's a bunch of different dashboards. You have CoinGecko. But none of them provide financial statistics for the whole duration maturity curve, right? So we are doing a 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 5 day, 7 day, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, month.
So this is something that people who are much more financially minded, financial analysts and that sort of thing, they would really understand what's going on here much better than somebody, say, like me, who's not very
but if you do hold, but if you do hold, let's say Komodo, if you hold Litecoin, you do want to know how well it's done over the last 60 days, right?
True.
Both in US dollars. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is a nice place, like you mentioned, one-stop shop to get all of the data that you might want.
Exactly. And we've also done some quality analysis, like a QA checks. So our data is extremely accurate, right? So I think that's something that I was really happy with, because once we developed, and this is all done in R, by the way. R is a professional statistical platform. So we feed the data into R. These are standardized processes, and they spit out an output in MySQL that we keep on the cloud.
Okay.
So the whole process is fully automated.
So this is very interesting and exciting, because just anything that keeps growing and advancing the space for everyone, whether it's in the financial aspect of it or more specifically technology, which we will talk about in a moment, but every effort that goes in these directions is exciting, and because it just pushes things forward and brings to the next potential step that we could be able to take. So that's
okay,
great.
So I was gonna, that's a good point. One thing I was gonna add, if you have now, like, if you look at Ethereum tokens, so if we have any token or on Waves or on Tron, we can quickly just add that asset to our database. So as these tokens continue to grow, there's going to be more and more tokens, utility tokens, security tokens, STOs. We can quickly just put it in our database, load up the prices, and then just include it into the universe.
Excellent. And last thing possibly about the Cryptoken and the app, did you want to mention any specific thing about the app? You were talking a little bit about almost like a fantasy league, or is that a little too early to talk about?
Okay. No. Yeah. So we're hoping to we are using distributed storage to save client data. So that's really big takeaway, making it into a Web3 app. So we have the IPFS node sitting in the background, and we are issuing keys for every single user. So if you are to save a watch list of your favorite cryptocurrencies, I'm not going to keep that data myself on a centralized server. It's going to be distributed across the web, which is really neat. And two, we are now possibly exploring our own token. There are similar products on Ethereum currently being built. I think there's one called tokens.net, and another one is called Synthetics. But essentially, we're trying to build a synthetic trading token that I just called like either like a prediction market, or even better analogy would be kind of like a ESPN fantasy that you see for like NFL games, where you pick your players, they accumulate points, and depending on how they perform, you get a payout. It's just the payout would be, yeah. Just don't get it wrong.
No, that's cool. Okay, and you mentioned this token. Is this where you want to collaborate a bit with Komodo, or what's going on with that?
Okay, so this is how great Komodo is, right? They have the developer resources are plentiful, right? So they just have to point you to a proper module, because technology is built, right? So they're quite supportive, to be honest with you, and they reply and they engage with you on Discord. I would recommend anyone who's interested in Komodo to go and visit their Discord group. It's extremely great. But yes, I'm hoping to use their specific system, which is called PP, Prices, Crypto Conditions, and then build our own native token that's going to allow you to standardize these wagers through smart contracts, where you pick a cryptocurrency, you pick a duration, you commit some of your own tokens, they will give out like through an airdrop or what have you, and then you just either win or you lose. Hopefully you win, but it also can help you with like hedges. You know, if you have Bitcoin at $13,000, you don't want to sell it right now, but you think the price is going to fall, you can possibly take a short position, put our own native token against it, and then in a week, if it does fall down to 12,000, you benefit.
Okay, well, it sounds like it's in the early stages still, but it'll continue to get fleshed out, and definitely looking forward to find out how that goes going forward. Unless you want to say anything more about that, we can talk a bit more specifically about Komodo if you like right now.
Yeah, so I was going to say we have made our app is about 95% done. It's
Oh,
the shell. We have all the code is privately sitting on our GitHub. I'm doing the testing right now, and simultaneously, while the base package is being built, I'm already working on the smart contract, on the faucet, on the token. So luckily enough, actually, the blockchain part of the app goes quicker. It's I'm talking about 90 days, 60 days, even like 6 to 8 weeks. So it actually, I'm hoping by Christmas we'll have something that's working and people can use.
excellent. So if you need anything else, you're just gonna approach the community and get it from them, right? If you need people to test it or do anything like that.
So we'll probably seek a third-party audit service to kind of do a full like fledged due diligence on it. But yes, we already have a couple of resources and people from Komodo that have reached out to me to see how we can come up with the logic of the smart contract, because there's few different variables and it's a bit unique because it's kind of like a predictions market. It's like a fantasy. It's like a game, like a casino.
Right.
So yeah, we definitely are getting some help from them, which I'm extremely happy with, because no other community, man. And I've reached out to Tron, by the way. I've spoken with people from Ethereum. You're not gonna get anything from them. You're just not as a DApp developer. You're not gonna get anything from them. I'm just telling you that right now.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. And I mean, yeah, from what I can see on the face of it, Komodo is extremely involved, and there's always somebody nearby who can offer some help or point you in the direction where you can get some help. And the other thing is that you mentioned a third party is going to be helping with this. So that's great too, knowing that it's not just all in-house. That was kind of the reason for my question. And so you've got a third party helping. That's great. Okay, why don't we move on to Komodo more specifically? What do you want to talk about with Komodo? What do you want to say?
Yeah, so I'm actually quite excited about the upcoming launch of the AtomicDEX version 3. I mean, to me, I can't even get my brain. I'm pretty smart. I think of myself as being somewhat clever as well. But just getting your brain around the fact that you can trade all of the cryptocurrencies, tokens, coins, what have you, through a decentralized application where you keep your own keys through smart contracts is just mind numbing to me, really. The team, I mean, you're also involved with the community and you're quite active. I've been working on it probably for how long? A year, 2 years. The mobile version is amazing. I think you're going to see a lot more mass adoption once there's a fully fledged desktop application available. I think people were a little bit reserved, like I'm going to be reserved. I'm not going to be moving a whole lot of money on a mobile trading app, right?
That's the recommendation. Yeah.
But now you have a desktop. If you have a desktop app, I think people are going to be quite excited really to try it out. And I'll just add this. I know this is maybe part of the promo, but like the fact that you can trade assets cross-platform. So between Komodo, let's say Bitcoin, and then another platform like Ethereum, that's crazy.
That's huge. And so just to mention about what you mentioned about the mobile, it's definitely recommended not to keep large sums on,
okay.
Well, just because of the SPV or light clients or whatever that is not as secure. Although, and the other thing that you mentioned was about being able to hold your own keys, keep it in your wallet, and still trade cross-platform. And now there's also the option to multiply. You can take the same funds and put bids on a bunch of different coins or tokens, and then that allows you to whichever one will get hit first, whatever bid gets hit first, that'll make that exchange and cancel out the rest. But basically you're multiplying what the liquidity there, or I'm not exactly sure that the terminology, but
this is where the financial innovation comes in. I think you're looking at market orders, right? And then also their limit orders as well. And I think this will continue to improve in the future. Like you can say, you can probably place in 3 different bids through Komodo, and then whichever one gets filled fastest, or depending on your level of preference, boom, it comes through.
JL was saying unlimited, potentially unlimited. I mean, he mentioned, I think 10 in his example, but potentially it could be unlimited number of orders you put with the same funds that you're holding, which is different than what you have traditionally or currently on centralized exchanges or other providers. But and the other thing I wanted to mention, because you did mention about the development of the AtomicDEX, as far as I can tell, the technology has been being developed for like over 5 years, 6 years, maybe if you count the 2014 situation, just because it starts with atomic swaps. And then after that, it moves into a bit more of a focus. For example, there was the barter DEX, and then, or well, maybe even instant DEX before that. Anyhow, so it's definitely a long time in the making. Definitely a long time in the making, but it's very exciting for everyone involved, I'm sure. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I honestly, and to be honest with you, I've been trying to deal with on our, you know, I have my day job where I help like clients with like education and advocacy and like our data engine. Like I work with them on a daily basis and send out like the spreadsheets we have. But like they would ask me like, okay, so I do want to buy some Bitcoin. I want to buy some Ethereum. How do I do it? Right now you have these OTC desks, which are not really reputable, right? Like I'm looking at like a website out of London, and like, man, I've never heard of CoinPass before. So now I'm supposed to be filing like KYC disclaimers and AML disclaimers so I can onboard a large institutional client. Man, with AtomicDEX and atomic swaps, clients can quite easily have their own pool of money, right? And if you have your own pool of money, then you can possibly recalibrate, rebalance, right?
Yeah.
If BTC goes up in price, you can take some of those gains and deploy it in altcoins. Like it's an actual, like, it's extremely important step forward when we talk about financial innovation.
Yeah, the reason I'm smiling hard right now is because you mentioned KYC and we're talking AtomicDEX, but we're not gonna go there right now today. Okay, so we're gonna keep it on this topic of AtomicDEX and actually DeFi. You wanted to mention a bit about that. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, and we can have this conversation for probably hours at a time. I'm quite passionate about it. But I just wanted to make a big distinction here, because to me, that is what decentralized finance means. Like they talked about DeFi on Ethereum, and I've been following like Andre Cronje, right? He was like a trader that was essentially lending money to like some of the lending protocols like Aave, Compound, and what have you. But that's not DeFi, right? Uniswap is not DeFi. I mean, I've a graduate degree in finance. You know, that's not, you're not really empowering daily users. You're not providing them with tools to manage their financial portfolios, right? AtomicDEX, Komodo would, right? It allows you to hop onto an app and trade while keeping your keys across 60 different assets. That's what DeFi to me means, right?
Do you want to just
yeah.
Do you want to just distinguish that a little bit more clearly for us? So you mentioned, for example,
Uniswap. Let's look at Uniswap.
Yeah, Ethereum based. Okay, yeah. You're saying that they're DeFi, but they're not quite hitting the nail on the head in terms of what decentralized finance is really about.
Yeah, they're not adding value to individual users. Really, the only thing Uniswap is doing is it's taking a pool of assets from a massive Ethereum pre-mine. And let's keep in mind that 50% of the Ethereum tokens haven't been moved in like years. They're collecting dust. So let's not even talk about their like crypto economic model. But what they're doing is they're lending their ETH to a decentralized liquidity pool whereabouts you can have more efficient trading for their tokens, right? But again, at the end of the day, that's not empowering end users. Okay. In any way.
And then in contrast to that, let's say you look at Komodo. AtomicDEX. Can you tell us a little bit about how Komodo fits into this more pure or real DeFi that you're talking about?
Yeah, so one is decentralized because each person will keep control of their own keys, keep control of their own wallet. So there's no central authority that's essentially signing off on the transaction. So that's number one. And two, it encompasses all of the assets in the universe, right? So it's cross-chain, cross-protocol, and somebody told me on the chat, it's actually cross-issuer. So you can possibly even take like wrapped Ethereum on Yearn Finance and exchange it for Komodo. Like that's just crazy. You can do that. So it's also cross-issuer. So you can take Bitcoin, principal Bitcoin, and then you can take wrapped Bitcoin on Yearn Finance, and then you can change them interchangeably with, let's say, KMD cryptocurrency. So it's also cross-platform, cross-issuer. It's pretty wild, actually.
So what? Yeah. What do you think? What do you think is? What do you think?
I was going to say one more thing.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, well, if you let's just look at like BlackRock or my former employer or Fidelity or all these large asset management companies. Once you own a stock, you can't go out of the stock into another stock. You have to redeem it. You have to sell your Netflix into US dollars and then purchase, right? Tesla, right? But cryptocurrencies have evolved so much where you can do interchangeably and move your money across assets like with a single click.
Interesting. And sorry, go on. While keeping your keys, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, while keeping your keys. So like
right.
You don't have a brokerage account. You don't have to wait for a 3-day settlement period. You don't need a transfer agent. You don't need a custodian. You don't need a regulator. I think BitMEX got into trouble. BitMEX got into trouble because they were operating retail interest, right? They actually held custody of users' money, right? In the US. They were
those things
actually
they're too complicated for my pea brain, but yeah.
No, one thing, but they kept control. So if you traded, they were unregistered futures, but if you traded those futures on BitMEX, okay, in the US, that was bad, right? Yeah. But that's only because BitMEX kept control of your keys, kept control of your account. So technically, if you keep control of your accounts, then you're not even running into problems with the regulators.
Right. Okay. I think because there's no central company that's involved with the trade.
Correct. Because it's the user that keeps control of it.
Yeah, and I think back to your point about trading pairs. So when a centralized exchange, let's say, adds trading pairs that are not just BTC, let's say you want to go Komodo to Dogecoin or Doggy Coin, whatever, or you want to go Komodo to Ethereum, let's say, like you said, then you would have to sell to the Bitcoin and then go into the Ethereum. That was how it was before. Then when you got some stable coin action like USDT or whatever, you would sell the Komodo to the USDT and then go from the USDT to the Bitcoin if you want, or to the Ethereum, sorry. But even then, you're not directly going from even if they were to make a Komodo and Ethereum pair, which they have, there are Komodo Ethereum pairs, you're not directly going from your Komodo to your Ethereum. There is some sort of proxy action happening in which you can then trade for the Komodo to the Ethereum. But it's not
very
direct.
Good point.
It's, yeah. And that's one of the things that really flips it when you get this AtomicDEX package where you control your keys, so you don't have to send it to anyone central, and there's no real proxy action at all in terms of tokens or things like that allow you to somehow swap. It just is way more pure and direct.
Also, they collect fees. Don't forget about that. If you go out of one asset into another, like a stable coin, and then back into, let's say, KMD, that's a bid-ask spread 2 times.
That's a really good point, actually.
I mean, Binance makes, just look at how much money Binance makes per year. They make about $350 million in fees. In fees. Not in fees. So.
Crazy. All right. Well, I think the last thing that we're going to talk about here is privacy. You wanted to mention about privacy. Why don't you share something about that with us?
Well, that's how I heard about Komodo in the first place. I think in 2016, the original code base was from maybe Zcash.
Correct.
So Yeah. So and
Something
I
like that.
just I recently saw a token sale for the pirate chain, which I thought
Hmm.
was really, really cool. But then I was really, really impressed when I went in and saw their ecosystem. There's an actual web page with tons of different merchants, uh, e-commerce providers that are getting onboarded slowly. So there's a whole ecosystem of merchants now that may use. I think the ticker is R, which is
Yeah,
ARRR.
correct.
Um,
And
and the fact that privacy, man, privacy is a human right, man. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're in your bedroom, you should be able to do whatever you want, right? And without people judging you. The same thing with your money. If you want to spend your money on certain things, that's up to you, right? As long as you're not inflicting something bad onto another person, right?
well, I think that's where the problems arise, is because there are people who have differing values, they have differing worldview, and they will believe the exact opposite of what you say. They'll say, oh no, it's dangerous, because if there's privacy, then they'll go to this negative place where all kinds of bad
But
things are happening by all
why
kinds of.
always judge somebody? Right away, you judge somebody because they want to remain private. I mean, most of the things that we do in our lives, let's just look at our day-to-day lives. You don't share everything you do with your peers, with your colleagues, with your LinkedIn, with Twitter. You just don't. So, and now it's all of a sudden is much different when it comes to spending your money. And to be honest with you, this is a concept I just wanted to bring up so people can maybe try to think about it a little bit. You know, human capital, right? That's what money is. Each country pays you a salary depending on how much you're worth, right? But if I work a retail job, I make $12 an hour and I make 70 bucks a day, right? That's the human capital, right? I should be able to do anything I want with that money, right? So really, I just wanted to bring up the concept of human capital, and we should be thinking about that a bit more as we go forward, um, because money, by definition, is nothing really than a social contract, right? Like I also play tennis, right? And in the past, I would give a private tennis lesson, you know, and then I would charge $45 for a private. But like, how did I come up with that $45 mark, right? Um, it's the value that I have in me as a teacher, you know, as a registered instructor, right? I played NCAA tennis as well. So I'm like, okay, this is, it's a live ball. So that's what I value to be 1 hour worth of my time. But it's
Right.
human capital, right? We just express it in Canadian dollars. But then if we're doing the same thing in like Bucharest, Romania, it might be 20 bucks, right? And I think where cryptocurrencies are starting to come into play, they're evening up this field, right? Where you can attract resources. I attracted great development team from Russia at the lower cost than it would cost me in like Zug, Switzerland, or Silicon Valley. But they're doing the same quality work.
Right. So back to the privacy as well. I think the privacy, one of the big features of privacy on crypto technology is that it brings it the closest to pure hand-to-hand transaction like cash or even whatever precious metal or anything, whereas direct hand-to-hand, and there's it's not on some
Is there like a
electronic
barter? Are we
record.
talking about like a barter transaction, like where?
Not even necessarily. I mean, because I guess if you want a philosophical thought about it, everything can be considered barter. Like if I'm giving you 5 USD and you're giving me, or 45 USD, let's say, and you're giving me one tennis lesson, it's like I value the tennis lesson, so I want it, and you value that 45 USD, so you want it, and we're bartering that together. But
Okay.
there's just semantics, maybe. What I mean is that it keeps everything fungible, because
Okay. Yes.
it doesn't matter, for example, which dollars passed through which hands. It's just all cash, right? For example, if you have Bitcoin though, or anything else that's transparent and can be traced, then you can basically map out everything, and that changes the nature of economics on a
Yeah.
certain level, when only because you have the prying eye, you have the control monster, or whatever you want to call it,
But for instance,
that third-party entity, which is, I have a couple of thoughts though, because, you know, I wonder in a free market,
okay,
voluntary system, like pure free market capital, no government, let's say, okay?
okay,
I would imagine that we would probably want there to be transparency on the monetary level so that you could actually enforce certain contractual agreements. For example, knowing,
depending on the nature of a transaction. So like if we just go back, let's say you're teaching me Python and I'm giving you a tennis lesson. Okay, do we need to disclose what we, right? Do we need to disclose?
Agreed. I know what you mean. Nature of the transaction, maybe if it's like some sort of organization that does some sort of business, then it would be more important to know that they're not amassing, because everybody worries about, oh, what about this new mafia that's going to arise if they amass, you know, all the weapons. Well, you can monitor that by watching where do their funds go. But I guess you could do that even without transparent blockchain technology. You could just keep the books proper and
But let me ask you a question.
Let me ask you a question.
Let me ask you a question. Spain recently, last week, they enacted a law whereabouts they're going to tax 20% capital gains on your cryptocurrencies. And I'm like, wow. First of all, how can you tax bytes?
Well, this is where I think it's going to come into the point that
they're digital bytes.
You're going to start to see states that are going to compete with each other based on their incentives. The incentives.
Well, in Portugal, a neighboring country, has no capital gains taxes whatsoever on cryptocurrencies. So if I'm running up a startup, or if I have any sort of e-commerce business, I'm moving over to, what's the capital of Portugal? I forget right now. But unfortunately, like I come from finance, man, and I know my limitations and my weaknesses. I can't perhaps articulate myself well enough why I value privacy. And this is why I just wanted to bring this up, and the topic of human capital, and whether or not we need to disclose the nature of transactions. And I'm looking forward to, because some people would just say, well, everything needs to be transparent, everything needs to be open, tracked, and I'm like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's a certain gut feeling around privacy, and those of us who value privacy, we can feel it in our gut as well. Like we can come up with logical justifications and all of that, but there, on a certain level, there's a certain gut feeling. And even the people who don't want privacy of money, let's say, they still want privacy for a lot of different things that they do. They don't want, but let's not go there for today. Unless you have anything else to say, we've definitely gone along here. We seem to enjoy going back and forth. Do you want to say any last words before we cut it off here for today?
Really just looking forward to this launch, because I know I'm going to be deploying it myself, right? And if I'm able to, let's say, register a business, right, whereabouts I can manage assets on behalf of clients, maybe an AtomicDEX will be quite an empowering tool, right? Because I can then source clients' assets, I can do asset allocation, I can do asset rebalancing, right? Especially using our data engine now that we have more precise. So I'm just looking forward to Q4, to be honest with you. And then I know, like with COVID and everything else, but strictly speaking, this is quite an exciting time, right? The financial innovation based on blockchain has just taken off now.
Yeah, actually, when you're talking, you're making me think of some sort of automated rebalancer. Oh wait, that reminds me too of what Varus is looking at right now. But basically, that kind of idea of a mix, and then rebalancing it based on movements of prices and making it automated
mention that protocol. Mention that's a project called Varus.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, definitely look into Varus. Go into their Discord and read all about it. Ask lots of questions.
Oh, they also have a Discord group, eh?
Correct. Yes, definitely go check it out.
Mm-hmm. We'll do.
Right.
But thank you for taking the time, man. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me. I know we've tried to connect a little bit, and I was waiting on some updates now that we have made some progress with our app. Hopefully, the cool thing about our app will be totally free, man, right? So it's just like I'm doing it from the bottom of my heart to get this information out to as many people as possible. And if we can maybe take on like Blockfolio, right, and try to compete with them, and I think we can. Unfortunately, we are not going to have a mobile app at this point. It's just going to be a desktop app, but
one thing at a time, right? One thing at a time.
One thing at a time. One thing at a time. You can, what is it? Don't chew more than you can swallow. Isn't it like
right on. Excellent. All right, BT, I really got to thank you for coming on and sharing with us. And I really am excited for what you're doing. I definitely see the advancements you've made just in these few short months. If people want to follow you or connect with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so our handle, our Twitter handle is Cryptoken. So it's Cryptoken _board, BOARD. And that's
Excellent.
also my personal username on Telegram and on Discord. So you can definitely reach out to me with any questions. I'll be more than happy to engage.
Excellent. And I'll put the links on that in the notes at the bottom of the video, and a link to your website as well. All right. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Ciao, ciao.